Gracias por escuchar otro episodio más de Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa. ¡Empezamos! Bienvenidos a otro episodio de Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa. We're really happy in April, where the spring here in Arizona really feels like it's the perfect weather.
The spring is springing. We're wearing all the bright colors, the flowers. We're all out. And we're here to present our guest.
Yes.
And our guest for today is Yasmin Rivera-Klein, recently married. Congratulations.
Yes.
And she is the president of the Association of Latino Professionals for America.
Yay.
So welcome, Yasmin.
¿Cómo estás?
I'm so excited to be here and share this space and connect with the Latinas listening to us.
Thank you. And also thank you for making arrangements to be here and share the space with us and our listeners. Is really, really special that you wanted to make sure that you share the space with us. And then we can start a conversation and talking about what it's like to be, a young professional in corporate America today. But before we start that, how about we begin with, where did you grow up, Ho? I heard that you're from the East Coast.
I am. So I'm originally from Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is an inner city. And I think a lot of Latinos can relate to this. I grew up with very little money, but very rich in familia. So had a lot of love, especially from my grandparents who helped raise us. My father passed away when I was about 10 months. So my mother raised us as a single mom. And, there was just a lot of community. And so I take that with me and I share that. Moving across the country, I've, craved that family again, but been able to build community that.
And that family comes from, tú eres boricua, ¿verdad?
Yes, sí. So my family is for any boricuas listening to us.
We have them.
Yes, my family.
Which I recently learned where Boricua comes from.
Yes.
And you said, can you share that again?
Yeah.
I think that was so interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yes, absolutely. So Puerto Rico, the island, originally we were Borinquen. And then when we were colonized, they renamed our island to Port of the Riches, aka Puerto Rico. And so that's because we had sugar cane and other spices that they were exporting. And so that's why we are called Boricuas, if people didn't know that. Fun fact.
Mm-hmm. Little history lesson.
History lesson. Yes.
So how that background and culture has influenced you throughout your life, especially at the very beginning when sometimes we, especially living in the United States and the East Coast, perhaps, and having that maybe a point in your life where you question about your identity, or when do you bring your Latinidad to what you do?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because this is a really interesting point. So for me, I'm a proud no sabo baby to anybody,
Yes.
So when my grandparents on my mother's side, they moved here from Puerto Rico, both of them did not speak English. And so what they did was, with their 5 children, is they refused to speak Spanish at home. And the only time my mother and her siblings learned Spanish was at church. And so they went 4 or 5 times, so they were very fluent. But my grandparents, really depended on that English and for their children to teach them. And so my mother carried that with her. And so she didn't speak Spanish growing up in the house. So I understand Spanish. I still watch novelas. But speaking it, I really, really struggle. And so that part of me, it never bothered me until I got of age and I went to college and I really wanted to connect more with my Latinidad and speak Spanish. My family would make fun of me, for the Spanish that I spoke. And I said, well, you didn't teach me. So I don't think that this is fair. And so I really struggled, okay, am I Latina because I don't speak Spanish and I don't speak the language? And the answer is yes, right? We're still
Absolutely.
We still deserve to be in that space and share our culture and learn about it. So yeah, it's definitely helped shape me and shape the way that I look at things. And I've asked the question of, do I deserve to be in these spaces for Latinos? Do I deserve that? And the answer is, yeah, you definitely should be in connecting with them.
Absolutely. And I think there is a new generation shift on that. I think there was a lot of burden that was put upon the next generations and that especially are raised in the United States, right? whether you speak one language or two, that and all of us, I think, question at one point, are we enough, right? Are we enough of this, or where do we belong? And the answer is everywhere, right?
Yes.
No matter whether you speak two languages fluently or more than one. But I think what certainly resonates is the pride that you have, that you carry that along with you, and that you open the paths for others that come behind you, to make sure that they understand that it's a safe space and everybody can join in. So we're talking about your path, your career path. ¿Qué fue lo que estudiaste?
I studied finance at Arizona State University. Originally, I wanted to be a politician and come and change the world. And then I came to Arizona. I moved here to go to ASU, and I did the math, and I was like, ooh, law school. I don't know if that math, checks out. The math. And I was actually really, really good at math. I'm I'm one of those weirdos that love calculus and statistics. And so I thought, if I could do the math on law school and what the ROI is, I probably should go into something with numbers. And so I was like, okay, let me do finance. I really love numbers, and I'd want to learn about investing and learn about growing money. And so that's kind of where it went.
That's awesome. I love that, because I don't think we have enough Latinos, especially Latinas, in finance. I don't think that we see enough leaders that could share their stories, so then others can see themselves in there. And because I think there is certainly a stereotype of what that individual looks like in finance. Right. Have you come across that?
Yeah, so I graduated May 2020, and then worked in a finance and accounting rotation program. I also had a couple of finance internships, and I loved it. I loved being in the numbers, but I felt for me there was something missing. And there was that I want to connect more with people. I want to give back. I love helping people get jobs. And so I career pivoted into what I am in now. And so that's in DE&I and talent acquisition. But what I've been learning along the way is that there are Latinos in finance. A lot of them tend to put our heads down, and they don't talk about the work, and they don't show themselves off. They think their work speaks for themselves, but it doesn't. So there's not many at the top. There's only less than 3% of executives.
What do you say to those people that, how you're saying that they think they're doing what they should be doing, but they should really be speaking up, or how you said it?
Yeah. People need to learn they have to advocate for yourself if you want to move forward in your career. That's just the truth, right? People, unfortunately, that's just not reality. You're not likely going to get handed a promotion in corporate America. It's normally the people who people are friends with. It's normally the people who the leaders like. And that's why we've been excluded from these spaces for so long, because there's so few of us.
What is your advice for people to get themselves out there so then they don't fall into that?
Yeah, for me, I would say get used to being uncomfortable and get used to being the only one, but also advocating for those people. And so if you are in corporate America, I want to encourage people to join their employee resource groups, get connected, or a DEI council. If you don't have that at your company, that's okay. You should join groups. We'll talk about some here, but join your local networking groups. So here in Phoenix, we have ALPFA, shameless plug. But there's also a lot of great groups. There's, the Young Professionals Group of Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Mujeres of all shades.
Yeah, Mujeres of all shades. Yes, go watch that episode, guys. And yeah, there's a lot of comunidad you can tap into. And once you network and once you have those mentors you can lean on of, hey, I'm going for this role. Do you know somebody? Or, hey, I need to negotiate for my salary. Can you get on the phone and help me? Tell me what I should say. Let's practice interviewing. That's what these communities and spaces are created for.
We were talking earlier about the difference with young professionals now getting into corporate America. That we've seen that there's certain generations that don't even have not had the experience to even interview in person. And then you have a lot of people working remotely. And in your case, right, your headquarters for for the company that you work for is in the East Coast as well, and you're based here. And then you're sharing the experience of how connected you are. How can people that are entering into the workforce and in corporate America can develop those relationships?
Yeah. Great question. So just being honest, right? Like there is so much power in being remote. And here's why, because there's so many people that you can connect with and there's no difference, right? And you're kind of making it equitable for yourself. So for me, I work in Arizona. My company's based out of Columbus, Ohio. But there are other remote people in California, New York, and Florida. And so I get to connect with them and they're like, wow, we're the same. You're not in office, right? Like we get to share that experience. But if you are facing that, if you are stepping into a situation where you're remote and I don't know where to go, I don't know how to talk to people, I don't know how to, connect with people other than my boss, you need to reach out and ask people for virtual coffee chats. And so as silly as that sounds, for my Latinos, I always put on their calendar virtual cafecitos.
There you go.
But come prepared, find those connections. So if you have an employee resource group, that's normally an easy in or a DEI council. But if not, right, a lot of people volunteer with other groups. If you can learn or if you've heard them speak, or if you've heard some connection or there's a project that they're leading or something you want to learn about in their specific group, don't be shy. People are willing to connect with you and teach you and help you grow. If you want to do a job shadow, if you want to learn about their career journey, just send an email, ask them, hey, would you mind setting up 20 minutes? And throughout that connection, be prepared to have questions ready. Be prepared to make those connections throughout your conversation of, yeah, I've heard you've done this and this. This is where I want to get into that. This is how I connect with that. This is what I want to learn from that. Be prepared and keep those relationships going. Don't just have one. Make sure you're connecting with them on LinkedIn. Make sure you're sending follow-up notes. Make sure if there's a project coming up, right, you're either asking their advice or leaning on them. And that's how you create mentors and sponsors. Then those are the people that will talk about you when you're not in the room.
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. So what are your recommendations once you have the attention of your boss or the department head that you wanted to move into, and you happen to either be at a company event or an event that you were invited by the company? What do you do for those few seconds that you may have his or her attention?
Yeah, so I'll share a story about back when I was an intern at Nationwide. I was a finance intern, and I went up to the chief talent acquisition officer at the time. No idea who he was. He had wings on his plate. And I said, hey, where did you get those? And that is how our conversation started. And, I just asked him, I said, what? He was like, oh, there's some wings over there. And I said, oh, awesome. What group do you work in Nationwide? And he mentioned talent acquisition. And I shared, wow, I love, the connectivity you guys bring to the candidates that you bring in and the experience you've created. Can you tell me more about how your role impacts that? And so we created this connection. And then 3 years later, I'm back in the talent acquisition group. And it's all because of that one conversation and sharing that space of, hey, I have interest in your role in your group. Can you tell me more about it? And it just, don't be shy. Don't be shy to bump elbows. Don't be shy to ask questions and be authentic. I'll tell you, I'm very clumsy. I'm very natural. Sometimes I stumble on my words when I'm talking to executives and they likely don't care. They just want to have an authentic conversation. They don't want people who have their answers prepared and they've typed it up and they've read it over and over and then they go up to them. They want people who genuinely want to learn and want to connect.
You're right.
I'm interested in, because I feel like that's very nerve-wracking to do, to make connections, especially first starting off.
Yeah.
What are other or what is your mentality? What do you tell yourself when you're pushing yourself? I know now you're very comfortable with being uncomfortable, but starting off, what did you tell yourself to not be uncomfortable?
I think it was,
or to push yourself to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'll say, so growing up, I was one of those people, and this is a weird analogy, but I was one of those people that wore pajama pants, like Cookie Monster, fluffy pajama pants to the grocery store. Yeah, in high school. In high school.
That's such a niche thing.
That's such a niche thing.
Yeah.
So if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But I think so from an early age, right? Like sometimes it's just
so you know that's still in, by the way.
Yeah, it was. No,
I started that.
Yeah, I think
Just kidding. Just kidding.
I have a little sister, and I know it's still in because she wears those
Right?
pajamas, especially
Yeah,
the pattern ones, the red and black ones.
Yes.
Where it's like squares.
Yeah. So I think just from an early age, I was just sometimes very clumsy. I didn't really do sports. So at gym, I'd embarrass myself often. And so I just put myself back in that place of like, you're never going to see these people again. Or if you do, so what? Like you will go home and you will go to sleep. Or like in my case with those people from like high school or middle school or wherever I was, a lot of that experience was, hey, I'll just move across the country. What do you have to lose?
What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? I put myself in these situations and just remind yourself that we are all human. Mm-hmm. Everyone has embarrassed themselves. And if somebody and I always tell my friends this, and when they're interviewing for a company, if people don't want to accept you as who you authentically are, it's not the space for you, right? That's not a place where you can thrive.
Yes.
What other in what other scenarios, or how did when you were first starting out, I'm trying to say in what other ways did you feel like you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, and how do you feel like that benefited you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I volunteered for a lot of projects that I felt in my own head I was not qualified for. And so with that opportunity, I raised my hand, I came up with ideas. And I said, hey, I think we could really create this cool program. I think we should really be doing this event. I think we can create the community externally more. Like this is specifically at my company, but I also did that at ALPFA, the place I was volunteering in. And that helped me get more practice and helped me, take those skills and take it into my corporate role. But those experiences, right, led me to a place of, okay, I might fail, but, I'm trying and people are willing to help me along the way. And so that'll allow me to create more connection, create more experiences. And this way I'll be better for the next time when it comes.
Oh, so you mentioned ALPFA. Is that how you initially got into ALPFA, with volunteering for them first?
Yeah, well, when I got into ALPFA, I was a college student, and we have collegiate chapters. So we have one at Arizona State and University of Arizona. And then nationally, we also have a chapter in every city in the U.S. So Miami or national city, large city, and then every major public university. So for ALPFA, I was a first-generation college student. I didn't know anybody. I was an out-of-state student. And there was reggaeton music playing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Where's my people?
And this Latino, he comes out and he goes, are you Latina? And I said, what? I said, why? What a weird question. I said, why? He goes, oh, no. We have this club and, we've got free food, And I was like,
Had me at free
okay.
and music.
No, you had me on reggaeton music.
Yeah.
That's where they had.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I heard the music. I smelled the food. I was starving. It was 6:00 on a Tuesday. I was like, you know what? Why not? And so that group, we were all students. We were all figuring out on ourselves on our own. And they helped me write a resume. They helped me network. They helped me get my first interview. They helped me secure an internship, and having that community of other first generation Latinos who were figuring out in themselves helped me say, okay, they can do it. I can do it. We might not all know what we're doing, but we have each other and we're going to do this together.
That's certainly something that I felt from the very beginning when I had the opportunity to join some of the meetings and attend some of the events. You guys are a true community. You guys have a really fantastic bond and supporting each other and having each other's back. It's really, truly amazing. And the stories behind you are really similar. First generation college student. It's really, really empowering to see how you guys have organized and created. You guys are one of the most active chapters right now in the nation, right?
Yes, we're top 10. First time in a couple of years, many years. But we are very, very fortunate. So for 2023, we're the most innovative chapter of the year. We grew a lot in 2023. We got a lot of more members.
Why do you think that is? What do you think makes a successful like community like ALPFA?
Yeah. So when I took over as president last January 2023, my goal was to really focus on the ALPFamilia, because when people are passionate and people feel connected and they understand the why, they're going to want to give back more, and they want to create this for more people. And so we focused a lot of time on like bonding together as a team, building the team. And then I just didn't want to do things the way we were doing them in the last couple of years. And so I told the board, okay, we're going to do a retreat and we're going to create a space of creativity. What do we want to do? And so some of the ideas that came up were, let's do a little bit of a twist on the bailando. Let's come up with, more creative dances. Let's do dances and, from native areas in Peru and El Salvador and like dances nobody knows. So we all look kind of silly and like it's fair. And then for Women of Alpha, we love our Women of Alpha program, but we were like, let's
another best.
Yeah, let's have more fun with it. And so we were like, let's do a theme. Let's do a color. Let's make everyone kind of dress up. And so we did Latinas Can Be Anything, and we made it a Barbie theme. And so we just opened up the doors of creativity. And I think that's what empowered people to say, I can create, I can become, I can be, I can do these things and help other people. And so I think that's why we are where we are today.
I like how you set up a retreat because it allowed your team to like feel like a team and feel like they all had a voice, and starting from scratch basically is what it sounds like, and being innovative and pitching their ideas and feeling comfortable to pitch their ideas. So then it can come out to where it is, the outcome that you guys had, which was really successful.
Tell us about your pin.
Oh, yeah.
So beautiful.
Yes. So this year, we have just announced the Women of Alpha theme for 2024. It is Como la Flor. So get your purple ready. Also, this pin is for that program. So
Como la Flor is playing in my mind.
I know.
I can't.
I promised my grandma I wouldn't sing it. I promised her because I tried to did a test run on her.
Our producer, please put some auto-tune so we can sound a little better.
Yes. So yeah, she made me promise her, please don't sing that for other people. I said, okay, grandma. And so yeah, we'll be doing Como la Flor. Get your purple outfits ready. It's going to be November 1st.
All right.
And we are doing a brunch. We got asked, is it a brunch again? It is going to be a brunch. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of networking. We're going to support local Latina businesses again. We're going to showcase Latina leaders from different sectors. So yeah, hopefully we get to see
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So aside from everything else that you mentioned so far, you also have a platform that you're launching, a nonprofit.
Oh, Latina Loud.
And advocacy.
Yes,
I
just got my trademark for Latina Out Loud. It just got approved. So I'm very, very excited about it. I'm going through a branding shoot right now. We're going through a relaunch, but you can follow us. There are a lot of blogs. The platform really focuses on professional development and sharing experiences specific to Latinas. So an example of this is navigating guilt for making money and spending money, right? I can tell you for me, one of the guilts that have come up is recently I was like, I'm really busy. It would be nice to get some help cleaning the house. So I'm going to hire a cleaning person. My grandmother cleaned houses. And that guilt set in of, you can clean that yourself. You don't need to, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not right. And you have to unlearn those things, unpack those things. And other things that Latinas face too is, we're often called aggressive or assertive if we exist in these spaces and we advocate for ourselves, and that's not true. Or, we overcome a lot of stereotypes of, if you are successful, a lot of people want to downplay that. It's because of her looks, or it's because of this, or it's because of that, not because of her real achievements, right? And so we need to recognize that, and also just have a space for people to come and kind of learn. And I've never negotiated a salary before. How do I do that? Right. And so that's really what Latina Out Loud is about.
I love that. And that's certainly so key, especially the negotiation and asking for permission instead of just, hey, I'm going to own this space and I know my worth. I know my value, and then that's amazing.
And I think that's perfect timing too, because this month is Financial Empowerment Month.
Yes.
So I guess, to celebrate or to create awareness around, I guess, like, what are your tips in how to negotiate, your salary, or like, what is your main advice?
Okay, so first things first, you need to do research. So if you are on LinkedIn, you can actually look up the region where your role is, and comparable roles. And so you could look up and say, hey, I'm looking for, let's use finance, senior financial analyst, Phoenix, Arizona. What is the median salary? You could do that. There are a couple of other sites as well. But you want to do your research thoroughly and identify, okay, this is the region that I'm in. This is what the competitor roles are. These are what competitors are paying. Here's the median average in the United States. You want to make sure, depending on the role, depending on your experience, let's say if you have more experience, or if you have a master's, right, you want to negotiate up and you want to identify that worth. It also helps, a secret tip to corporate America I did not know personally is that a lot of companies have something called bands. And so the company that I am in, it is by letters. And so normally, depending on the company, they want to put you directly in the midpoint of that band. So that is a sweet spot. And so you could either negotiate your title to be a different band if that's not the salary, but that'll help you better understand where you are from a comparable standpoint. And so if you are, let's say, going for a G band, right? And the experience level is normally like 8 to 10 years for a G band. So the pay might range from 100K to 160. So ideally you'd want to be at 130, for example, right? But if you have more experience and say, hey, I am not at that midpoint, I might be a little bit over that, then let's make a strategy and get you to 145. So it all comes down to research and telling your own story and advocating for yourself. So don't be shy. I think a lot of people are like, oh, they came up over than what I expected. So I'm not going to say anything. No. You still say something. You still say something. You still advocate for that. So just being comfortable doing research, understanding your worth, but lean on people. And so if you don't know what that's worth, or you don't know where to start, find a local networking group that focuses on professional development. So here in Phoenix, we have ALPFA and other cities across the US, but there's others as well. So just find a mentor, go to a safe space where you can ask those questions and ask people too. I think a conversation we have with the ALPFA board, at least, is how much we make. And that's a really uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. But it's helped us realize, like, oh, you're making that? Like, I should be making that, and we've helped each other, like, okay, well, I need a job, switch companies, or I want to get to that place, or I want to get to the career field that you're in because you make X dollars, right? And so we've had those conversations in safe spaces. And so having that community that you can lean on is always helpful as well.
I think that's very empowering because you only know what you know. And I think it also just emphasizes why, we should push ourselves out of our comfort zones to make connections and have those type of conversations, which, money can be a taboo topic. So I think it's perfect timing for Financial Empowerment Month.
That's right. Yes. Excellent tip. In terms of DEI, I'm curious about what's your take. There was a resurgence of support, national support for a few years. Yeah. And then it's dwindled. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think companies should be doing more of that they're not doing?
Yeah. I'll tell you, for ALPFA, we've definitely seen, and I completely understand it, a lot of companies have, cut their budgets. And so the first thing to go is DE&I, right?
Can you explain a little bit DEI for some that...
Yes. If you are not familiar, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. You may also hear DEIB, which includes belonging. So a lot of companies are facing a lot of pressure, right? Just given the economy. And so the first things that they're going to do is cut their budgets, cut their spending. And so DEI is facing the forefront of that. And so things like ALPFA or other organizations that focus on DE&I and advancing Latinos or other groups, they're not getting as much funding. They're not getting as much support. So I think for companies, I think they have to really think about the long-term strategy, right? Like if you could really spend a couple $1,000s to maintain your partnership. Think about the long-term partnership versus the damage you could potentially be doing by saying, hey, when times were tough, we washed our hands of everything. And our employees, they may be disengaged. They may have left us. You might be losing talent in the long term. So it might be penny wise, pound foolish, right? Like we need to think through, hey, in the long term, what's going to make us money in 2025 when the market turns back, right? Or when that short term is.
Or when the next census comes out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, Latinos is the emerging market we should be focusing on. And if we want more Latino clients, then we should have more Latino staff and leaders, right? I remember having this conversation many years ago because DEI used to be called multicultural department. And of course, it's shifted a lot to a lot more, right? But I remember that we started seeing a lot of cuts with companies that we partnered with in this area, even in staff, and obviously on the company's investments as well. And I remember very well one of our the first CEO that I worked for at CPLC. We were at this meeting with this partner, and it was because the census had just come out with the new, and they were like, hey, let's have Chicanos and tell us, hey, what ideas do you have to reach out to the Latino market? And that was his question. Well, my first question to you guys is, what is your long-term strategy? Because if you don't have one, you need to start from there.
Right.
Because right now, just, the immediate situation, but, Latinos are so-and-so and so, diverse. And then you have, and they're loyal customers or loyal viewers or loyal consumers. And so if you want that, then you need to invest long-term. If not, it's just every quarter, then you shift and change. And then we are again the next year. That is so true.
Yeah. If people forget about Latinos, if these companies forget about Latinos and they forget about the market, and I mean, you could just look at the research, look at our GDP power, look at, how many of us are becoming business owners, look at, the generations coming up by 2030, right? We're expected to be 20% of the US or over that threshold. And we need to start reflecting the communities that we serve in corporate America. And so we need to think about, how are we connecting with those products? How are we connecting with these markets? What are those long-term strategies? And companies that aren't doing that aren't connecting with the CPLCs, with the alphas, right? They're just going to be behind in the long term. They're not going to be able to connect with us, and they probably won't survive, years to come if they're not connecting with us.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think you do so much, and it's really interesting how you balance everything, and, especially really inspiring, like how young you are too. I guess like my last question to you would be like, what drives you? Like, what is your purpose to do everything that you do?
I think for me, it was always really difficult being the first. So I never want someone to face that. I wanted to make it easier for the Latinos to come, behind me and say, oh, this is a little bit easier, right? And we want to make it easier for those people. Other things that drive me, I'm a dog mom. I'm a proud dog mom. And I want my dog to see the world. I really do. But, just being able to connect with the community and give back to the way that it's served. Because if there weren't organizations, there weren't mentors, there weren't people that I can lean on, I would not be where I am today. I would not be, I wouldn't have even been able to make it to college. And so giving back, right, I think is what motivates me and empowers me.
Well, thank you for all that you do and for opening the doors, being such a trailblazer. But I would think that that's exhausting at one point. So tell us what you do for fun. ¿Qué le da sazón a tu vida?
I love being creative. So I get to do that with ALPFA, funny enough. But like, we're planning a tech summit watch party right now. And so we were just,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were just talking about what color conchas do we want? Like what's the balloon? Yasmin, you got to help us design the space. And I'm like, yes. They're like, yes, this is what I like to do for fun. So I love designing when I can, getting creative. Other things I like to do is I'm really into Pilates. So I like to go to the gym, make sure my life is balanced. I think if life gets so crazy that I feel like I can't go to the gym, I say, you know what? Like, it's not that important. Things are going to have to slip. Like, I have to put myself first. So that's something I like to do to make myself feel like I'm taking myself seriously and prioritizing self-care. And yeah, my husband and I, we really like to travel. So whenever we can, travel a lot for work. But so between work trips, like, can I extend one? Can I do things for fun? So traveling is big as well.
What has been the most that you recommend to go, or that you would go back?
Ooh, I would say St. Martin in the Caribbean.
Really?
Yeah, they had such beautiful beaches. Yeah. Puerto Rico, of course, will always have a special place.
La Isla del Encanto, por algo se llama así.
Yeah. Yes. We're going to Europe next year, though. So I've never been to Europe. So that'll be like the test because I've always wanted to go. So we're going to go for 3 weeks, which is...
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
What part?
We are doing Rome, Greece, and somewhere else. I can't remember, but probably we might just kind of take all the towns
Those
in.
two are such great choices.
Yes.
Lots to do, great food, and great drinks. So
Yes.
you will have tons of fun for sure.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, for changing your plans to be able to come here. We appreciate that so much. I admire so much more and appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much for having me, one, and two, again, creating this space and getting to see, like, I'm a viewer, I'm a listener every week, every time you guys drop an episode. I love it. I get to learn from other Latinas. And so having this community, and especially having it so local in Arizona, right? Getting to see Latina leaders that I know and hear the story I didn't know the side of, or learn more, like Mujeres of All Shades. I didn't know that existed until you guys posted that. And so now I'm a follower and I'm going to go to one of their events. But yeah, thank you both. And it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, that's a wrap for another episode of Empodérate. Fátima. María. We'll see you next time. Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa.